welcome to the Lone Machinist podcast. The podcast where it's just you, your tools, and the work. No team, no backup. I'm Jamie from JSpec Engineering, and every episode we're tackling the highs and lows of flying solo in the machining world.
And I'm Curt from Confounded Machine, here to chat about everything it takes to make it as a one-man show in the shop. From grinding and turning to the struggles of running a one-person operation, we're sharing the stories, the tricks, and the challenges that come with going it alone.
If you're out there in the shop grinding away by yourself, or just thinking about taking a solo plunge, this show's for you.
So throw in your ear protection and let's talk about life behind the machine.
Welcome to the Tumbling Podcast, where we dive into tumbling media every week, because apparently that's all Curt and I can talk about. Yeah, how's it, Curt? How's it, Justin? We got Justin Gray from Toolpath on the podcast with us today.
I quite enjoyed your guys' discussion on tumbling. I've never messed with tumbling before, so it's. I feel like I'm getting an education.
It's a very interesting process. Very useful and very interesting. Small things make big differences.
We will
Didn't
try to
you
move
machine your
on.
own tumbling media at one point?
I made a mold and cast my own tumbling media. Then I discovered I could buy it way cheaper than I could buy the raw materials. It just entailed me having to actually phone someone and speak to them on the phone instead of just emailing them, because they don't know how to respond to emails.
Got it.
Yeah. But I
But
managed to
apparently
buy...
we should move on from tumbling.
No, tumbling's the best. I actually have a tumbling topic, and it's not a long one today. So I mentioned that the new tumbler is really, really violent last time, and it doesn't work super well on the knives. Turns out it's brilliant for the mag, the +2 shoes I make. I ran stuff through there for an hour, and when I went to Scotch-Brite it, I didn't even have to dip the parts in water because it didn't get hot. That's how quickly I was Scotch-Briting them, because the surface was super uniform under the tumbled finish and just super quickly cleaned up. So, yeah, I guess it has a benefit to being super, super violent. But yeah, we're not on here to talk about tumbling today. We're here to harass Justin.
Yeah,
I'm super thrilled to be here.
No, awesome. No, thanks for coming on. I listened to your latest podcast, or not latest. I listened to the podcast with Dylan just to kind of make sure we don't ask the same questions, because that's a fantastic one. We'll link it in the show notes for sure. And yeah, I don't know. Curious to hear what's been going on in your world for the last few months, because things have made wild changes, it seems.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I'll probably forget all the things that have changed. The big headline one is that we acquired Chatter, I think. And that was fairly recently. And so that's actually been my big focus for the last couple of weeks, is trying to get my mind wrapped around Chatter. Just before the podcast, actually, I was doing some testing on the brother behind me. So, starting to integrate Chatter into our flow and figure out how to roll that out, support the existing Chatter customers.
Oh, interesting. I was wondering. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
I said I was interesting if you guys just kind of maintained like separate roles, or if you all just kind of now just pile on and work together with both companies.
It's a pretty big change. Pete did a great job building Chatter up to where it is, and really defining what I think is a pretty unique version of machine monitoring for the space. But I say this with absolutely no disrespect intended, but he's not a software developer. And so the big thing for us is actually stabilizing that platform a little bit, putting some tests in there, fixing bugs, and getting it ready to roll out to a wider group of users. And so what we're actually trying to do is trade jobs. So I was doing a lot of the product development and design along with the software development. But I actually am the absolute wrong person to do product design. Like, I couldn't care less what color things are. I care a lot how many clicks I have to do, but like, other than that, where things are. Anyway, I'm not a designer, and that's what Pete's real passion is. It's one of the things that makes Chatter really nice to use, is that he put a lot of thought into that design. So he's taking over a lot of that from me, formalizing that and putting in the same way that he's not a software developer, I'm not a designer, and so when he was like, "Oh, show me your design documents for Toolpath, and like, what's your design language, and how do you think about building features?" And I was like, "I don't have it. I don't have answers to any of these questions."
Nice.
So he's working on formalizing that for us and putting together a process, and that's been very effective at helping our development team go faster. And while he's doing that, I'm working to get my mind wrapped around his code base and figure out how to migrate it over to our systems and stuff, like our hosting and everything, and how to support it. So we're really, really fully integrating and sort of handing off roles to each other.
Okay.
Oh,
It's been good.
Your role at Toolpot, that's CTO, Chief Technical Officer.
Yeah.
That's what it's meant to be.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I'm
So-
one of the co-founders at Toolpath.
Yeah.
Me and Andy founded it. My actual role is to do anything and everything that's getting in the way of us rolling out a product.
Yeah.
So along the history of Toolpath, I started out as running our shop. Did a little bit of Xometry work. It used to be in my garage. It's one of the reasons I'm jealous of your heating system, Curt. The X7 was in my garage for a while, and I did a little bit of job shop work. And I really it wasn't because I thought we would make a ton of money doing job shop work. Certainly, I never scaled to the point where that would have been anywhere near profitable. But it was to really understand what it was to be a machinist and to stand in front of my machine on a Sunday afternoon, knowing I have one end mill left and I can't break it or I don't get to deliver my parts on time. Right. And I don't know, it sounds corny, but to have that emotional connection to what it means to run a machine, I felt like that was really important for us to build into the automation product. Because that's the kind of stuff where if the automation product can't understand isn't the right word, but if it can't be tailored to treat your tools and your parts the way you treat them, then it won't work in your shop. And I kind of abstractly guessed that was going to be the case, that every machinist is different and every shop is a snowflake. But, really actually running machines was a whole new experience. And I don't know how, maybe it's been long enough for you guys that you don't feel it anymore, but there's a moment of panic right before I hit the green button on a new program.
No, that's still there. You mean the quick
100%.
start button?
And I felt like if I was going to be building a CAM automation platform, that I needed to have that moment of panic. Was not that I knew it was there, but I have this very visceral memory of they dropped the X7 off in my garage, and I'd never run a real CNC machine before. I'd done a little bit in college, but I'd always had somebody helping me. And I'm staring at it, and there's a million buttons on the control, and I'm like, what do I do now? How do I load a tool? What do I do? And if I screw it up, this thing will kill me. And how do I deactivate the door lock? Because I don't want that thing on there anymore. It's annoying me.
Well, we're not allowed to say that. We do everything that OSHA asks of us.
It's been disbanded now. You don't got to worry about that.
Yeah, the door lock is back on. Oh, yeah, that's true. It doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, the door locks. That's the local agency has one of the first things they actually do when machines come in is disable the door lock, door interlock.
Oh, yeah.
Because no one here wants it. No one's interested in that in South Africa. But yeah, we have our own set of rules here. So you did job shop stuff, and then that led to you wanting to develop Toolpath to make life a bit easier.
No, the other way around.
The other way around.
No, the other way around. Yeah. So we started Toolpath, and I did a bunch of sort of foundational research on what it would take to do CAM automation. And then I was like, this is it's too much of a science project. It's too academic. I need to cut some parts. I need to make some parts. And so, part of what helped me, honestly, part of what motivated me to jump to Toolpath was that we agreed to buy a machine and put it in my garage so I could, make parts, mess around and be a job shop. Again, not to make money, but just to know what that's like. And so while we were developing Toolpath for the first year, I was also making parts, and my side job for Toolpath was to make parts for Toolpath's job shop, right?
Yeah. Okay. Let's get that hands-on experience.
Right. And then, I don't know, a year and a half in, we got to the point where we felt like we had made enough progress that we wanted to start growing out to a true industrial level CNC machine. I love my X7. It's a great machine. It's a single phase one. I think you have a 3-phase one, so yours has a little more guts, Curt. But we felt like running on a real machine with a control that's more industry standard was necessary. So we had to grow out of my garage. And so the shop that you guys can see in the background here is only a couple miles from the house, but we rented that space and brought the brother in and have plenty of room to grow for other machines as we grow our R&D profile. But so I set this up. I ran the air. We paid an electrician to do the wiring, which was crazy expensive, and we got a good deal. So I can understand why people do their own electrical, but
Yeah.
I didn't want to touch 483 phase. So
Yeah, that'll set you on fire
then,
very quickly. What
yeah,
controllers on your SAL?
the LNC controller, which is like
Okay.
the Chinese Fanuc
Yeah.
clone.
Yes. I have
And
seen
I
them.
like it. I love it and I hate it. I mean, like, it's actually a pretty decent control to play with.
Yeah, it does the thing, but yeah. I assume the manuals are lackluster.
They're not so bad. It did take me 2 days to find out that in the manual they use parenthesis around all their function calls, but you actually need to use square brackets.
Yeah.
I was like, why are none of my calls working? I don't understand.
Yeah, it's those small things can really stuff you around for a long time.
But I've only had one real problem with it. I was running, it was like one of the last job shop jobs I was running, and the machine just started randomly shutting down on me. It was very, very unpredictable. And I called them and was like, you guys just need to send me a new control. This is BS. I'm not dealing with this. And they were like, okay, well, we'll send you a new control, but first turn the voltage regulator up on the, like, inside the box. And sure enough, like, I put a multimeter on it and it was at like 4.85 volts or something, right? And like had been for a while. And I don't know whether it worked its way down or whether just finally, but anyway, I turned it up to like 5.1 volts and I've never had a problem since.
Interesting.
That's a nice fix.
Yeah, that's an easy fix.
Yeah. So overall, I'd say, and to be frank, like the support I get from them, even though it's like through a WhatsApp chat to a Chinese engineer, is pretty top notch. Like I've never been upset about it.
Is yours one of the epoxy granite ones?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So 2021, 21, 22?
Yeah, I think so. 21. Yeah, 21.
Yeah, 21's when they released the epoxies.
Yeah, we were thinking about getting a Haas.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I think your casting is the same as my casting.
I don't imagine they've changed it much. Yeah.
What's interesting is Curt's controller, the model number. I can't find a manual for it. The only manual I can find is in Chinese. It's a Siemens 828, but the actual the number on it, it's not the same as my one, and the only manual I could find was Chinese. It was quite interesting.
Sociel does this. So the castings on our machines are labeled as Schneeberger castings, which is this Swedish company that makes great castings. But they're actually made in China under license from Schneeberger.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
It would not surprise me to find out that your Siemens control is actually...
Yeah, I'm fairly certain that's what's happening because a lot of machines out of China have Siemens controllers and they are from China because they're considerably cheaper than buying from German Siemens. Like I was chatting to the guy, the technician who came to visit me, and he was saying, if I buy a Sino machine with an LNC or one of those controllers, it's maths is hard, $5,000 cheaper on the machine than if I option it for a Siemens controller. Like straight up, just adds $5,000 to the price if I want a Siemens setup on it.
I'll have to send you something after the podcast, Jamie, because I talked to Siemens directly when I was having all these crazy issues. So I'm like, F this. I'm just going to reach out with them and just deal with their tech support and be like, give me like over the phone or like whatever support, which is heinously expensive. But they linked me to like just a plethora of documents, and I'm pretty sure I have an exact one of probably any control that's out there because they just have like a huge database. And they said like, these ones are like cross compatible. It's just different model numbers from, I'm assuming, origin of manufacturer.
I think that's all it is. Because I want to find out how to add M codes. I have the hardware. I want the software unlock. Well, I want this, what I need to do. Apparently it's not difficult. I've just got to pay the guy to come out and I don't want to. So I was asking them if they've got an SOP they can give me. Because I'm friends with I went to high school with the guy who works at the agent. So I'm trying to get him to get me the SOP so I can just follow it and enable the M codes for myself. But yeah. So did you write custom macros for your SAL?
I did. So the story there is that when we ordered this machine, we knew that I didn't know what I was doing. And so we didn't pay the $5,000 for the probing package. Also, the paying $5,000 for the Chinese clone of the Renishaw package seems silly
Yeah.
when the Renishaw package is around 5K. Um, but rather than break a $5,000 probe, we just bought like cheap internet probes and tool setters, and I've broken plenty of those. Unfortunately, I shouldn't be proud of that, but I have. Um, but when I did that, I knew nothing, and they were like, "Well, you can use whatever probe you want, but our macros only work with our probe," which is BS.
It's a
That's not
load
how
of cuck,
macros
but
work, and I
yeah.
know that now. um, but I didn't know that then, and so I opened up their macros, and I was like, "Well, I'm not scared of macro programming, so I'll just edit whatever doesn't work to work with my probe." But it's like all in Chinese. um, all the comments are in Chinese, and it just was like really hard to read. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to write my own. Also, people had been saying that they didn't work completely well, like the factory ones weren't very bulletproof, and so I just wrote my own. They're hosted on GitHub. Um,
Okay.
say what you want about the LNC control, but they actually support like a full programming language with like correct if statements and while loops and logic. When I went
Oh,
to
wow.
write some macros for the brother, I found out that the way that they do if statements requires the use of go-tos, and I
Ugh.
threw a tantrum for 5 minutes. But
Yeah,
so
the Siemens controllers, they're probing macros. So I've got all the Renishaw macros on my machine because it got optioned with the Measurement 2 package from Siemens, which includes that, but it's got all its own integrated probing stuff. It's yeah. I made a one for setting my tool lengths, which also weird things are happening there. Well, it's
your
the
tool
first
lengths.
touch. Yeah, so when I boot the machine up, the first touch, second touch is about 30 microns difference, and then it's 2 or 3 microns every time. So that first touch of the day, it just, I think the probe just needs to settle in because some oak was in there with soldering iron and a small hammer and a Dremel.
I've been there. I've been there, man. I just
Yeah.
ended up buying a new tool setter.
Well, I got given this TS27R because it was broken. And I put it through the ultrasonic cleaner. The one seal was damaged. They wouldn't sell us a seal, so I made a mold and made my own seal. And it's been working. And then I put 24 volts through it and ground, and it evaporated one of the pogo pins. So I got in there and I unevaporated said pogo pin, and it works. I just don't want to spend. I mean, I can buy a Chinese one for like $400. I just don't want to spend the $400 on a probe.
The probe that I have, the tool setter that I have on the Sile is a $30 Amazon one, and it is. I've had more of these things apart than I should admit, and it is surprisingly accurate, like within a couple
Yeah.
tenths every time.
I had one of those on my machine for a while, and I had a bit of coolant ingress. I had a spare one on the shelf, so I put that in, and also works flawlessly. But then I got a TS27R, so I figured time to
Yeah,
upgrade and put that in.
and I've thought about putting one of those in the Sile too. It'd be nice, but I just don't have
You
the
can
time
pick
to.
one up. You can pick one up for
Tool setters
$400 off AliExpress.
Yeah.
Like they're super cheap now
Yeah,
because they used to be prohibitively expensive.
yeah.
Even wireless tool probes, you can pick one up for. I think it was also like $400-500. They're not
Oh yeah,
expensive. Like they've really, really come down in price, which is a bit terrifying because you don't know what quality you're getting, but
right.
it's the risk you take with China.
Yeah. Did you get probing on your Sile, Curt?
I didn't for the same reason. I just couldn't justify. I didn't hear a good thing about probing for the price, and I was like, you know what? If I'm going to get probing, I'm just going to go with like Renishaw and just eat the little bit cash. But I mean, with all the issues I have, I think I'm getting a Renishaw package for free, so I'll have updates on that in the next few weeks, hopefully. So that'd be kind of cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because those Renishaw probes are not exactly cheap items.
No.
Yeah. My
So,
TS27
Justin, how much of your day is like? Oh, sorry. How much of your day is based up between like moving bits around, like playing with code, and like playing with the machines? And what do you enjoy more?
The Silicon Valley terminology you're looking for is how much of my day is moving bits and how much is moving atoms.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So bits versus atoms, and which startups you invest in. On any given day, I usually work at least 12 hours a day. Right now, sometimes more like 14 to 17. I'm hoping that can come down sometime in the not too distant future. So when I give you percentages, you have to take them out of like a 2x and like a 40-hour work week. But um, it's about 70% moving bits and 30% moving atoms. I would like it to be more moving atoms. And actually, that's going to be a big focus for us in the next couple of months, is starting to run more parts. Um, Getting the product to the point where it was really stable enough. So like, one of the reasons we started with quoting is that it's okay to be a little bit wrong on a quote. And when I say a little bit wrong, I'm not talking about like a time estimate or something, but like a geometry selection, or like the way you set up a tool path with a lead in or a lead out. um, like on an estimate, those kind of computational geometry issues don't really kill the estimate, but they sure kill the program. So um, we've been putting a ton of effort into sort of like very foundational computational geometry stuff underneath the quote in the last few months. And we've finally gotten to the point now where it's really sturdy enough. And so honestly, I want to be cutting parts like once or twice a week using our software. And that's not to say that like I expect other people to be doing that. I think we need to be pushing the envelope there. I'd love for it to be there for people to play with, but I just don't want to oversell the cutting part of it and be like, oh yeah, we can auto program your parts. One of the places I hope to spend a lot more time with is like really getting it dialed in for fixture work. Um, I think there's just a lot of people who would love to never program a fixture again. Um, and it's one of those things that I think the activation energy is high enough that we tend not to improve our fixtures as often as we should. Cause like, it just, it works, and I don't want to make a new fixture. I don't want to program a new fixture. But if programming a new fixture was like trivially easy, uh, then we could do it. And when you don't care as much about surface finish, and like if every edge isn't perfectly deburred off the machine, that's a nice target for us for auto programming to start with. So soft jaws and fixture plates and things like that, I think, are a good place for us to work. But yeah, I spend about 70% of my time programming right now. We have a pretty big bottleneck on the user interface side of things. Early in days in the toolpath, I was very focused on the AI engine. The broader engineering team has that pretty solidly in hand now. And so I don't get to work on the AI as much, and I'm working a lot more on the user interface for the last 3-4 months. So that's been interesting because I am not a web developer by training. So I've basically had to come up that learning curve pretty quickly.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I try to touch the machines at least once a week. Each machine gets something run on it at least once a week is my goal.
okay.
Well,
No, it's interesting to hear how your week breaks up there, because programming, not my favorite thing in the world. But yeah, the programming of soft jaws, that could be really really convenient, and fixture plates, because that, like you say, it's more effort than you want to put into just quickly sort out something because it's working. So if it ain't broke, fix it till it is. But yeah, I could see where that could be really really valuable.
Yeah.
yeah, no, like I run production like all day. Like I build a fixture and it's going to run for years. And even then I'm just like, I don't want to make fixtures. Like they're still boring and I barely have to do them. Like if I can hand anything off to automation, that'd be like one of them for certain. Be like, or even just
Right.
like I should set up a proper like container method in Fusion. So I just, can get through these easier. Cause same thing, like it works. And I'm like, it could be better if I did this. It's like, or I could just not do it and keep doing what I'm doing and basically be totally fine. So yeah, it's just like you said, that barrier to doing it is high.
The container method is another good one. So that's where my bits and my atoms kind of cross over. So one of the things that Toolpath does right now, like when we push programs down into Fusion, you just get a bare part in space. And I hate it. I hate that. I know that a lot of 3-axis machinists don't model their work holding. I get it. I understand that it's like only sort of necessary. But like I just need to simulate everything, man. I've crashed into my jaws a couple of times. One time, actually, I had the whole Toolpath team out here. Um, what's really hard is to find good computer programmers who like have CNC machining experience.
Oh,
That's
weird.
really hard to find.
I
um,
bet.
so we had the whole team out here, and I was like, I'm gonna give them a part to make, and I was really dumb, and it was like an actual customer part, and I thought it was an easy part, but it turns out like when you have a bunch of people who've never run a machine before, and like 5 or 6 people juggling that's really, really complicated. And so somebody like made, like, the program was fine, but we made some small tweak to the program. And I don't remember the exact details, but what ended up happening was like Fusion decided to move the lead in. And so the lead in was fine before, but where it moved it, it crashed into the jaws.
Ooh.
And I had just like that day installed like the brand new orange vise on the machine. And then like all of a sudden now there's like a big apprentice mark in the jaw. And so like from that moment on, I was like, you know what, I just simulate everything. Like if like, there's no reason not to for us. And so instead of pushing just a bare part down now, we're looking to actually push like a really nicely designed, but still pretty simple container method down that'll have Phil Mestenhauser's like work holding stuff. So you can like swap, like right click, replace the work holding and everything. And my working theory is, I have no idea if this is true or not, but my working theory is that if I just give everybody a really nice template that's already pre-made, then everybody will use really nice templates and start building off of them.
Yeah.
But like, even for me, the act of like building a really nicely organized template in Fusion is like a lot of effort, more than I'm sort of willing to spend, except that I know that that effort will go into something greater. And so I understand why so many people just don't use it. And I'm hopeful that like Toolpath will just encourage people to use better container methods soon. So that's where my bits and my atoms are starting to cross over, because like a lot of the coding that we're doing now is about getting more better processes down into Fusion with the programs that we generate.
Okay. Yeah. Anytime I simulate my work holdings when it's on a pallet, because then I've had to machine the pallet anyway, so the model's there. Like otherwise, I don't do any of them. Like I'm super lazy. I look at how much, because the nice thing with Fusion, it spits out the lowest point of your, the lowest point your tool is going to go to. So it's a really quick check to see the tool sticking out enough, or you can measure to your vise jaw and know, okay, cool, I should have like a millimeter of clearance, or like, yeah, it's good, but not perfect.
For us, the thing that really drove us toward it more than anything, other than simulation is obviously a big one, but was 0 point work holding.
Yeah.
So like once you have a 0 point on your table and you just want everything referenced off that 0 point, I'll even drive probing from Fusion off that 0 point. And so like basically I have to have it all modeled anyway, just to do the probing.
No, 100%.
So once it's there, then it's easy, right? But
that was the same thing when I set up like for this machine. I was like, I am never like, I'm modeling every single thing that's on that table so that I the same thing, I can simulate it, and like I don't have a lot of room to begin with, so everything is already tight. So I'm like, there's just going to be one time when it's late at night and I'm forgetting something. I'm like, oh, I just got to face this really quick, and then just slam into the fourth axis by like, maybe only 1/8 of an inch, but like big chunks of metal hitting each other. It's just not happy. So it's just, and if I didn't do it at the jump, I'm not going to do it. So yeah, I'm a big fan. I simulate everything, but again, I don't run like multiple like new programs a day. I like, I get everything set up, and then it's going to run for weeks and weeks, if not months. So it's a lower concern for me, or I can put more time into playing with it, I should say.
One of the things that's neat about Toolpath that I really like from our tech stack perspective is when we do tool matching, we match the tool plus the holder. So it's not just like, oh, you have a 1/4 inch end mill and it'll fit in this pocket. It's like it has a 1/4 inch end mill and it'll fit in this pocket without hitting any other geometry on your part. And I want to graduate that to including work holding so that we can start doing 3+1 and 3+2 stuff. So yeah,
because that gets really complex really quickly when you start moving vices and swinging them around. Like, then you're going to have work holding integrated.
Yeah. So that's a lot of what I think about here. And in some ways, I like to imagine that I'm on like the edge of what standard practice is for a lot of machinists. I know like there's folks out there at large companies and with 5-axis machines that have really dialed processes. They simulate everything. But I also know that like most shops don't do that because it's too much work. And so I hope that Toolpath can make it not too much work. It's like what I want.
The crazy thing is the era we're living in with the technology of these tools and the expense of them. And your product is like one of the few that's of it. Like you would think there'd be 10,000 different variants of like proper machine. So like it seems like machine sim, machine monitoring, all that stuff is lagging behind so hard. Like in every other aspect of technology and like even the consumer world, like you could monitor your sleep pattern from your bed nowadays, but you can't monitor your $1 million machine to see if it's functioning right. Like, it's crazy that that's like a massive gap.
So I think I've actually given this a lot of thought, and I think here on the Lone Machinist podcast, we can deeply understand why that is more than anything else. Machining and manufacturing is this process that for the most part just doesn't scale. And obviously there are some things like proto labs and some large scale production. Obviously, Foxconn is making a bazillion iPhones every 15 seconds. But outside of like large scale manufacturing, a lot of prototyping and even small run shop stuff is done by like one guy in a shop or two guys in a shop. And at that scale, you just keep it all in your head, right? And because we keep it all in our head, and because it's not like trivially simple to like automate a lot of this stuff, because not that many machinists are comfortable writing macros or integrating machine monitoring stuff. Like I'm just perpetually shocked at the stuff you do, Jamie. You're just like, yeah, I'll just code my own stuff to tie my machine into home automation.
Tie 3 machines into home automation with uptime tracking.
But like most people can't do that, right? Like homegrown application is the thing.
No, like a lot of the time, a machinist is a machinist. They know how to drive a machine. They don't know electronics. They know mechanical kind of things, and that
yeah.
I think I'm in a bit of a unique position there.
I've thought about this a lot because there was a moment when we thought about like building toolpath automation and then buying a bunch of machines and trying to create the factory of the future. And there are other companies out there that are taking a swing at that, and I hope they're successful. But there are a lot of companies in the that have failed going down that path. And I've tried to understand why, and my conclusion has become that if you try to treat anything other than production manufacturing, where you're truly making the same thing over and over and over, like a car or an iPhone, anything that's like mix, even like high mix, low volume is like one extent of it, but even like the kind of stuff you do, Jamie, where I like it's high mix, but like medium to high volume still.
Yeah.
That needs to be treated more like medicine than like manufacturing if we want it to scale. And so like when I think about how hospitals work, at least here in the States, you have all these surgeons and they come into the OR and they, every patient's a snowflake and they do their surgery and every person does it a little bit differently, right? But the support systems and the support structures around them are there to give them that flexibility, but they can get the anesthesiologist and the nurse and the x-ray and the equipment and the sterilization, it's all there, but every surgeon still does stuff a little bit differently. And I think manufacturing hasn't quite figured out how to scale that side of it, where you could imagine like coming in and being a highly skilled machinist inside the system. We haven't done that yet. And maybe we never will. Maybe there's just too much specialization of equipment and skills to get there. But I think that's why people have just made it work for so long. And when it's just you, the need to have it be more automated isn't, I don't like this. I think we have a need. Like we would all be better off if it was more automated, but we can just power through. And so
that is exactly it. Being able to power through, like, because I'm in the process now of automating a few things, but I've got to make 120 parts this month. Am I going to build a bar pusher? Probably, because I like building things. The problem is that's 120 parts this month and it's 1,000 next month. And the following month's going to be another 1,000. I don't want to be pulling that bar by hand in the MCO. That's just going to be boring. Well, I'm not going to do it. The bar loader is going to do it. But still, if she doesn't have to sit in the workshop, then don't force her to sit in the workshop. I'm leaning heavy towards automating stuff and documenting stuff. Documenting stuff is critical. Because why reinvest the time every time the job comes around? Like in all your setup. Rather just write it down or take a picture and next time it goes from a 3-hour setup to a 10-minute setup.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't see it that way. Like a lot of people in the industry in South Africa especially don't see it that way. Because the wages are so low, they don't really care. We were discussing the coolant vacuums today. And the issue we've got here is you'll pay a guy $10 for the entire day. Like that's his wage for the day. And he'll sit with a cut-off Coke bottle and scoop 200 liters of coolant out into buckets before they'll go and buy a coolant vacuum. Like I see the value in a coolant. I've got Monica. I see the value in it. Like every time I use it, it's great. But trying to sell that to a shop where they've got someone who's getting paid next to nothing to just be in the workshop and help when they need help. Like they're never going to spend the money on a coolant vacuum. Like it is a bit of an issue in South Africa.
Huh, that's fascinating.
Well, my dad, when I was in high school, he came to market with a product. He was in the garden industry, making fiberglass rocks and water features. And he was like, no, he came up with an idea using effectively 2 rake handles to be able to pick up a whole pile of leaves at once, because we did all our own gardening. So you rake up all the leaves and you can pick up this whole bunch of leaves at a time. Went to market in South Africa and couldn't sell them, because why am I going to buy that? I'm paying the $10 for the day. I don't care if it takes half an hour to do it. I'm not doing it. And that's unfortunately the way South Africa tends to work on things like this, is you're paying the guys so little that you don't really care. You just let them take their time to do it, which is like I was at a shop last week and they've got oaks. They're getting paid next to nothing. They've got their welder and the guy who does the cutting and the guy who runs the drill press. And they've just got like 20 people on staff and it doesn't really cost them that much money. So they need to send someone somewhere, just send the guy. Like, I mean, they brought a computer here today. They drove an hour to drop a computer off. So an hour here, an hour back. I put a new hard drive in it. They drove an hour here and an hour back so they can run production tomorrow. Like, I'm like, that's what couriers are for. It cost me $120 or 120 Rand. So like $6, and it's there the next morning. Like, it cost them more in fuel to come and fetch the thing today. But that's those guys. They might want another one of those machines, which I can't say I'm excited to build.
How does setup work for you, Curt? You're making small batch production. Is it all in your head?
Honestly, I do my best to try to like put anything I possibly can into the models or into the code, like literally just write in the code like a giant paragraph at the start so I can read it, be like, hey, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, and then you can run the part. And if it's really complicated, I just take a video of it, and I have unlisted videos on my YouTube channel that I just watch, because I'm like, how the hell did I do that thing? Or like I'll figure out something that works really well and be like, I'm never going to remember this. Like I'll write it down, but then I'll forget that I wrote it down, so I won't go to read what I wrote down. But yeah, honestly, a ton of it still probably lives in my head, like way more lives in my head than it probably should. And I wouldn't notice it until I have, like, if I had someone sitting on my shoulder just like all day being like, oh, you should write that down. Oh, that just should be someplace else. Be like, oh yeah, there's a ton of stuff that's just like, yeah, I don't know. That's the thing. It's just like one little thing, and then it snowballs. And before you know it, you're just like, oh, I don't have backups of any of this. This is just in my head. I know that when I post this code, I have to delete this line because I haven't altered the post, because why would I alter the post? Like, it just, yeah, there's a ton of those, unfortunately. Just so many fires to put out. But
wow.
I try not to screw myself. So thankfully, like I said, I'm not making a ton of parts. So, or I'm not making a ton of variants in my parts. So once they work once, I don't really have to think about it for a while.
Hold on a sec. Speaking of videos.
Yeah, I learned that lesson about backups earlier this year when my NAS died.
Yeah.
The irony of talking about needing to video a process when a video that Pete made for me about chatter just started playing in the background. So you guys couldn't hear it, but I had Pete like talking in my ear for a second there, like telling me something about chatter. And I was very confused.
Yeah, my NAS wiped itself earlier this year, and I had a bunch of code on there for repeat production work. So now that's all been pulled onto the lathes, pull off the NAS. So what I do now is I load the code in Linux CNC, and then I duplicate it to my desktop, and then any changes are on the desktop of the machine. That way I'm not, and then I can push it back to the NAS, but I generally don't for production stuff, because I've now had to reprogram all the bar pulls and all the dumb stuff that happens on a bunch of the products or the recurring work that I do. Like, it's a bit of a challenge. But luckily the LK is just straight from Fusion. It just runs. Like, I've got that post dialed. It just, you send the code, you hit go, and it works. The only thing I might want to add is a park in the front, but generally after the first run, I'll go and add that in. It's one line of code. I add it in by hand. And it's not the end of the world.
I've messed up hand edits on programs enough times. I'm just never focused enough. Like, whenever I need to hand edit something, I'm never focused on what I'm doing. So I just won't do it anymore. Like, I just edit the post to get what I want.
So with the gang lathe, Okay, the M car could probably edit the post because all that is a couple clearance plane things and some delays. But the gang lathe, every single time it's different. It's because it depends on the order of tools you're running, how long they are, so that I hand edit on every single program. It outputs, I know, delete this line, because Fusion also outputs on every different operation a spindle RPM. And then the spindle and a tool, sometimes a tool number. So then it'll turn the spindle off, turn the spindle on, and then it's ramping down, ramping up. So I delete that crap and just let it stay at RPM. So like that, there's a lot of hand editing, but it's a lathe program. If it's 200 lines, it's a hell of a lot. No,
yeah. If you crash it, lathe crashes are never scary or anything like that. It's not like there's a
not at
bajillion
all.
joules of kinetic energy flying around. Yeah,
it's not a multiple 100-kilogram spindle doing 2,000 RPM. No, Bertha's spindle is chunkier. Things like a couple 100 kilograms.
The last big hand edits I did, I was modifying the brother post to include in-process probing from Fusion. And so I was trying to figure out what the post needed to look like. And I was playing with the Bloom macros. And so I had hand edited a macro and I crashed the probe and broke it. It sucked. Yeah.
So yeah, I haven't really messed with the probing at all. I don't have a probe, so I haven't really messed with the probing in Fusion. I mean, I've got probing on the sister Slowio because it's got a wired probe, and it's really convenient when I use it. Like you just go, cool, probe the thing, beep, and it goes boop 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 and does the thing. It's really really nice, but I can't say I miss it on the LK. Like I plan around where my work coordinates are going to be, and I can't say that I really miss it. I've got a edge beeping edge finder thing, and it does the job well enough. Like, yeah, even today I was running a part where I skim and then I probe a machine surface and then I run the second program. Like, not the end of the world.
I don't know. For me, just like I look at that and I'm like, I don't need to be standing here for a minute hand wheeling this thing around. Like I just don't need to be, and so I shouldn't be, right? Like, and
100%. But yeah, it also comes down to like the quantities of things you're doing. Like that's where, again, 0 points, very useful. Like all my high production stuff goes onto the anchor point. It's pre-programmed. It's all modeled. I just load and go. Like when it comes around, you load code, hit go.
The stuff that I really appreciate probing for, the two things I really appreciate it for are one, comping in features. You can do that live programmed in Fusion. That's super nice.
Yeah.
It depends on what kind of tolerances you're trying to hit and how dialed your probe is and the run out and all of that. But, if you have a plus or minus 1,000 feature, you could probe that in all day. And just having to like comp it and measure it, I don't want to deal with any of that. And then also like sanity checking, like, oh, is the stock you loaded the right size stock? Or, adjusting the work coordinate system because I didn't get it centered in the vise or something. That kind of stuff, those kind of belt and suspender stuff just make me feel so much better.
Well, that is something I want to automate a process, and to do so, I'm going to need a probe, because hoping it loaded in the right place works perfectly right up until it doesn't. Like it works flawlessly right up until it doesn't. So you've got to build those redundancies into your process so that you can go sleep and leave your machine to run, because that is the goal. Have the machine annoy my neighbors while I sleep. Like, yeah.
Well, and that's literally the only reason I want a probe too, is just like you said, for the sanity checks and for the in-process kind of stuff. Be like, hey, did this giant piece of metal get removed before this other tool comes in? It's like, yeah, you're good. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Like,
yeah.
That's like even tool break detection. I broke my tool changer. This was great. So I broke a tool, which then broke the next tool. So I broke a 3mm tool, a 2mm tool, and then a backside chamfer tool. So I was like, okay, I don't have tool measurement. I'm just going to tell the thing, pause the program after that each tool. And then I'll look, is the tool there? Hit go. And I did that, and I hit go, and it started tool changing, and I walked away and my hand hit the E-stop, like hooked on the E-stop by accident, and I pressed it mid-tool change. So now the machine didn't know where the motor for the tool changer was, because it's got a geared motor with a little cam. So it refused to do a tool change. Eventually, I had to go to site, phoned my mates, had a chat to him. He's like, no, there's probably a sensor. Pull off the cover. Oh, look, a sensor. Shoved a shim in there, and then it would change. Then it was drunk. So the whole carousel it thought it was at 1 when it was at number 5. pulled the appropriate tools out, loosened the big nuts in the middle, pulled it off, turned it, put it back on. So I did that. And then the next time the job came around, I had set up the TS27R by then. And then tool break detection. Oh, it's the best. You can walk away because it was an hour-long run making 20 parts. And in that, I think I did 60, no, I mean half, 30 tool break detects in that time. And if there's a problem, the machine's stopping. It's not going to grind itself to pieces and break everything that's there to be broken. That peace of mind is huge.
So here's a fun one for you. I got to listen to a presentation by some Renishaw guys, and if you go on the internet, they'll flame the crap out of you for talking about using your probe to verify your measurements on your part. All right, so like comping in a bore, people seem to be okay with that, except at certain tolerances. But if there's like a problem with your encoders or something, then your probe is going to be just as inaccurate as your part, or as your right. And so there's all this internet drama about whether or not you can use a probe for in-process inspection or not. And so the Renishaw guys stand up and they talk about, oh yeah, well, what we do is we just like build a bunch of artifacts and then we qualify the machine, qualify the measurements of those artifacts using probes in the machines. And then all our parts are probed in the machine. And I was like, well, like the parts for their measurement equipment are probed in the machine while making it with their measurement equipment. I was like, well, if it's good enough for Renishaw, it's good enough for me.
I have a question there regarding that. So, okay, assuming your encoders on your machine are not great, are we talking about not great linearly across the length of the travel or not great at a certain point of that travel? Because depending on which one, if you calibrate with a gauge ring of a known size and linearly you're out, it doesn't know the difference. If you're gauging something similar size to your gauge ring, your error scales. Like, can you tell I built measuring equipment for 10 years or 7 years? Now, measuring stuff. You watch people, oh no, I'm measuring this. I'm like, dude, you ain't measuring shit all there. You're measuring parallelism, not flatness. Like, the level of stupid I had to deal with guys running CMMs at wheel factories was insane. Like, thinking they're measuring one thing, no, bro, you're measuring an entirely different feature. It was entertaining. But I mean, if it's a linear error on your encoders, it should be calibrated out to a certain degree. But so people have opinions and like to shout them on the internet.
My opinion is that if you think tool break detection is great, wait till you have a probe. You'll never then you'll be like me. I don't want to stand here and hand wheel this thing. Like, that's crazy.
No, 100%. I get that. I just think
if it can drive itself,
it's going to drive itself into shit.
Well, the probe halos actually are very, very. So that was the other thing about writing my own macros is like now I understand what's going on. And like if you're in a protected move, the probe halos pretty much solve that problem.
No, 100%. If you're not in a protective move, then you're going to have a bad day.
Right. I've heard good things about the Silver CNC probe. I actually have my fourth as a Silver CNC fourth on my Sile.
Okay.
That one's fairly inexpensive. I think it's like $1,200 US.
I'm trying to get AliExpress to open because I want to see how much that wireless probe I saw was. This is the normal thing on the podcast. Jamie's on AliExpress during the podcast.
On our Sile, I actually have a Tormach probe, a wired probe with the Zoom Speed wireless kit. And that's okay. It's okay. It works well. It works fine. It's a little more finicky than I would like, and when it like runs out of battery and stuff. But
so I know where to connect my probe on the Siemens controller, but I don't know, and they can't. Well, I'm sure they can tell me. They're just choosing not to. Where to connect the low battery signal and the spindle probe enable signal.
The Silver CNC probe has like a spin it to enable mode or something.
Ooh,
so
that's
you can
cool.
get away without that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the Renishaw
put it on an M
probes
code. Just put everything on an M code.
Yeah. That's actually why I went with the Zoom Speed kit, because I didn't know there is an M code in this control for turning on the probe. It exists already, but I didn't know that at the time, and so this one doesn't require that. But both the Renishaw and the Silver CNC have a spin to turn on mode.
Okay, so it measures the It's got IMU in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if I'm buying a probe, like I'm gonna rely on it to keep things from like going bad. Like I don't want a cheap one. Like I don't want it to be
No,
like, oh, it didn't work because it was whatever. It's like, oh, like that's the one thing I kind of want to depend on. It's like buying a cheap seatbelt.
it's only going to fail once if it's a cheap seatbelt.
That's true.
I'm just scrolling down here quickly. I only got to worry about that one failure. It's fine.
I
There's
have heard good
definitely-
things about the
You're not
silver
going to
stuff.
complain after it.
There's definitely like levels of quality in probes, right? Like
Yeah.
the Tormach probe is just a simple kinematic coupling, which is still very accurate,
Mhm.
but can get
That's all
gummed up and over.
That's all a TS27R is a kinematic coupling.
Right.
You can get a probe for $300 or $350 wireless.
With the receiver.
Yes.
Wow, that's a very good
nuts.
price.
Yeah, like it's a stupidly cheap price. Like it is absurdly cheap. No, come back thing. I'm going to send you a link because I think it's funny. There's a more expensive one that has a integrated BT30 holder, BT30 holder on the back of it. Copy link address. There we go. Okay, go AliExpress.
You know, it drives me absolutely nuts every time I have to do it because I'm not very good at it. Although I did recently get a pro tip on it, but is truing the run out of a probe is like
That's easy.
a huge pain in the butt. Huge pain in
It's
the
easy.
butt. The tip I heard was to buy 4 of the same Allen wrench so that you can leave them all in the probe at the same time, and then you can turn the
Really
two opposing
not
ones
that
at the same time.
hard. No. I used to indicate chucks. We used to make a 270 diameter chuck for gripping alloy rims, and we used to put a ring on that, and that had to be running dead nuts. And that also jack screw, same like a probe. You got the 4 screws. Same story. I got really, really good at doing that. But yeah, it's not hard.
That's what real machinists say, is that it's not hard, but it's hard for me. It always takes me a long time.
I used to
I'm with
indicate
you, man.
I used
I'm
to
with
run
you,
a
Justin.
wire cutter. I used to indicate parts in with a hammer. Like literally down to the last couple microns by tapping with a little copper hammer. Yeah. But again, lots and lots and lots of practice of indicating stuff. So yeah. Like even
But,
4-jaw, not difficult to dial in a 4-jaw. It's the same thing.
I don't understand why we use the 4 grub screw method on a probe though. And I need to like find Robin Renzetti or something and have him explain it to me, because to me, like an eccentric wheel with like a little grub screw or something like a worm gear would be way better.
Yeah, like a million different ways you could do it. Yeah, I agree with you.
Swap the grub screws for Torx grub screws, and then you'll be fine.
Yeah, but you still have like the stiction of like where you tighten it and you're like good, and then like yeah, I'm with you. Like
you tight. So what you do? Okay. So what you do is you nip them both out,
better.
And then you loosen the one just a crack, and then you just force the other one, and it pushes it over. You're not loosening and tightening. You're tightening and tightening and tightening, and then it works fine.
Yeah, sure, but like this is like.
I can do okay down to like a thou, but like sub a thou when I'm trying to deal with like tenths, then it's like it feels pretty fiddly to me.
Oh, if you wanna walk off a bridge like that, yeah, I agree. That is annoying. Machine leveling. That was the thing I found even more infuriating, is like buying a really good machinist level and be like, okay, I want to get this machine dead nuts level. Oh, like yeah, that was the one thing I was like, I'm just gonna walk into traffic. Like I can't get this anymore. And honestly, I don't need any more level, but it's just like the OCD-ness of my brain. I'm like, I want all of it perfect. And you're like just tweaking. You're like, I hate this.
Make the installer.
I bought a Haas machinist level, mostly because I had never played with one and I wanted to do it, and they were on sale for like $50. I regretted that immediately. I was like, nope, I should have paid for a nice one that has like a big, like a high leverage adjustment screw or something. I was like, this is the dumbest adjustment mechanism ever. So just calibrating the level made me want to walk into traffic. Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, I don't miss doing high accuracy things. I really don't. We used to build and level and do dumb things where I used to work. My favorite was, the first thing I was taught with the level. You put a machinist level down, you see the reading, you turn it around and make sure the reading isn't the same but opposite. First thing you do. We had builders here building my mother-in-law's cottage, And the guy, I'd put in all the cupboards. I bought kit cupboards, bolted them all together. We installed them. Spent a good 2 hours making sure everything's level before I bolted to the wall. The one day I'm busy working and the builders come call me, no, the counter's skew. So I'm like, pardon me? Walk over there, I grab the guy's level, put it on. Oh, look, it's high this side. Turn around. Oh, look, it's high that side. They had a piece of concrete stuck to their level. Like, I'm not surprised by the quality of the work. I'm really not surprised. But in 602 feet, it changes this much between the floor, between the wall and the front of the cupboard. When I put the bottom boards on, literally cut like a 2-inch taper. It was insane, the shitty quality of their work. Yeah, but that's builders for you. Can't take them anywhere. No, yeah. We like
Curt,
our things to be precise.
I have a question for you, and you reminded me of it because you have your lathe in the background there. You do some manual turning on your pens?
Yeah, I for
even though
the
you have a CNC lathe.
Absolutely, yeah. It sounds insane. So the Hardinge is, I mean, it's a turret lathe, so I don't have tailstock. And I buy all my bar oversized and turn it to diameter. And I would Swiss turn it in the past. So I'd stick an inch out, turn it to nominal, advance the bar another inch, advance the bar another inch, advance the bar another inch, and that worked honestly really good. But I would still have like a few tenths of difference between all the little steps as it came through, even if I kept the bar clocked to the same as a collet was advancing. Which is just annoying. It just made finishing like longer. It was something that you could polish out. Like I didn't have to machine it to make it smooth, but it was something that was just like, I want to have to do this like multiple times, like manual hand finishing is just so tedious. And I'm like, I'm going to get like carpal tunnel. My hands are going to like collapse. So there's two solutions I have. I'm either going to buy a lathe, like a CNC lathe with a tailstock. And I did find a few that I wanted. I'll buy a Swiss machine, which is kind of probably the end goal. And then, or I could just buy a big manual lathe and just turn it between centers and then just feed those blanks into the Hardinge. Because the operation where I do like the drilling and the reaming and all the threading and everything on the end is long enough that I can manually turn them. So not ideal, but I was like, well, for the price of a manual lathe, like it would pay for itself within like a month or two. And that's why I went that way. And then if you like, having a giant manual lathe is just so nice to be like, oh, I just got to like knock the end off this bar. I got to like make it smooth, or I got to like tweak this. Like it's so convenient to have. I wanted one. So it was kind of like just forced me down that rabbit hole. But yeah,
I have a small benchtop lathe from Little Machine Shop. I bought it right before I went off to do my PhD. I bought it and then I was like, I'm going to go do a PhD. And then I didn't touch it for 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, having a manual lathe is super helpful for like the moments when you need a manual lathe.
You can't be without one. I sold my big one and I bought a toy one because you cannot be without a manual lathe in a workshop.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree.
Yeah. You need to shorten a bolt or do some stupid thing. I actually went and used my old lathe this last week. We bought a new thing. The basket lid for our pool cracked, but really small crack. So when the pump was off, it was watertight. As soon as I pulled a vacuum and the lid would cave a bit, it would open up a crack and suck air in. We had the pool guy out here for like 3 weeks trying to fix it. Eventually I was down there and I noticed it. So we went to buy a new one. They don't sell that anymore. They now sell a thing with a big nut. And the threads on the motor are too short. So the nut was bottoming out. So I took it to my old lathe and just skimmed 10 mils off of it quickly. But yeah, you've got to have a lathe. I tried to put it on the toy lathe, but I couldn't grip it with the tiny ass chuck.
Nice.
I can't remember what it was for now, but when I was at Dylan's shop, we were doing something. I was doing a cleanup activity for him or something, and we needed some screws, and the heads on the screws were too big, and so I was like going to chuck it up in their lathe, and Brad was like, no, and he put it in a drill and put it on the belt sander, and I was like, oh yeah, that's way smarter.
The OG lathe.
Yeah.
The screw lathe. Yeah.
Exactly. The screw lathe. Precisely.
Yeah.
Okay, we're coming up on an hour, so I'm just going to quickly do the shout outs that we need to do because we now have a Patreon supporter. So shout out to Jade from Benchmark 20. Thank you for supporting us on Patreon. You are number 1 at the moment. And all Patreons will be numbered on the Wall of Fame. So just thought I would quickly shout that out. And then most important question of the day, Justin, how's your t-shirt?
Oh, Dude, I love this T-shirt. This thing is great.
I didn't expect you to be wearing it today.
I'm wearing it right now. Yeah, there you go.
I've got one coming. It's going to be great.
This is great, man. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if you want to spill the beans on the podcast or not, so you can edit this out if you don't. But it says, "I'll be nicer if you'll be smarter."
So that shirt is available on our website. There's a whole bunch of fun shirts. They're all available there now. And there's also some Lone Machinist merch that's available. I've got a shirt coming that says, I said it worked. I didn't say it was fixed. So that's actually... I've got to go buy vinyl tomorrow for shirts because all my shirts... I'm still wearing the IMTS shirts and they all have holes in them.
I think you won the IMTS fashion show for sure.
100%. I plan on winning next time as well.
But when I got this shirt in the mail, I showed it to my wife, and she was like, "Yep, that's you. That's good. Yeah, good job."
It's a brilliant one. But there's a whole bunch. So Danica's planning on releasing new ones every 4 months or so. So the 5 designs every 4 months because there's all sorts of fun stuff.
Pretty sure you're not going to be in the machining parts business anymore. You're going to be in the fashion business.
No, she'll be in the fashion business and the podcast editing business, and I'll be in the machining business, which means I'm going to lose my bar loader, but that's fine.
Yeah, I think she needs a raise up from $0.
Well, we're going to go to ProPack next week, and I signed up today as the dictator of JSpec Engineering, and I told her she needs to sign up as the bar loader of JSpec Engineering. I always sign up as the dictator. Do you know how few people actually read your badge or read it that well? I think at IMTS 4 people commented on the fact that mine said dictator.
I saw some good badges at IMTS, but I was intentionally looking at everybody's badges. But I think some of my favorite ones was like God level machinist.
Nice.
Was the title.
Now IMTS was a proper jewel. It really was. You guys made it really, really good. The Toolpath booth was top notch.
Wait till you see what we have for 2026.
Oh, nice. I was hinting at finding out if you guys were going to be there and doing something fancy again.
Oh, we'll be there.
Okay, awesome.
I don't know what we'll be doing yet. We're going to have to figure out something to top 2024, but we'll be there.
Yeah. Okay, sweet. Because Curt and I are both planning on being there as well.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we'll have to do.
So actually,
maybe we can. Maybe I'll actually figure out a way to have some spare time, and I'll be able to go out to dinner with a few folks this time.
Yeah, Danica actually wants to do on the Wednesday. She wants to do a bra at the Airbnb. So invite a whole pile of the guys over for effectively a barbecue, but better. All South African stuff. So she likes to complicate my life. She wants to find a butcher and have them sell us sausage casings so we can make proper boerewors while we're there. Because we can bring the spices, but we can't bring the meat. So go get the meat and make sausage while we're there so that you guys can have real South African food.
I mean, that's 100% doable in Chicago.
Yeah.
But if not, you guys can talk to me. I'll make sure you have what you need to make that work.
Okay. Sweet. Because I think that'll be quite fun. Because every night we went out for dinner during IMTS. It was silly. It was fun. Lots of fun, but it's a whole lot of networking. That's what the whole thing. Well, that's not actually what it's all about. It's about buying machines, but networking that's the reason I'm going again. Is not necessarily I'm not going to buy a machine from a US distributor, but it is nice to see what's out there.
That's why you're working on your small fidget toy, right, Curt? So that you have a pile of cheap toys you can hand out at IMTS in 2026.
I mean, it's one of them, yeah, for certain.
Well, Justin wouldn't have heard the after show. I ordered the blanks this morning for my little
nice.
project I'm working on. Yeah, they're ready. I ordered them this morning. I got an email this afternoon. No, they've been laser cut and come collect. I was like, what?
Sick.
It's obviously the beginning of the month. They don't have many orders yet. So they put out 250 parts for me today between that and a couple other things. So
this is for your quick release fidget toy?
No, this is for a ruler. It's become a 2-inch ruler. 2-inch ruler.
That was
yeah.
That was good. That was good. I'm looking forward to when that comes out.
Yeah.
That was good.
So Danica's doing the artwork for me now. We're going to do a whole bunch of them with different breakdowns. of effectively 2 inches, but in real units. Because it's going to be fun. But yeah, I've been plugging away at the anchor point system, so those are leaving shortly. I now have the packaging sorted out.
Awesome.
Yes,
You're laser cutting your own packaging.
Yeah, laser cutting some origami. I'm waiting. The guys didn't actually send me a quote today for MDF. In the box, I'm putting in a 3mm MDF base, then all the origami stuff, then a 3mm MDF base on the top, so you can literally throw the thing at a wall and nothing's going to get broken because courier transfer exists.
Also, I don't think MDF qualifies because I don't think that's considered wood. But weirdly enough,
good point.
Wood has shipping things. Like I had to avoid it for reasons because they're like, oh, if you're shipping to this country, you can't ship wood. It's like, oh, okay.
I just won't declare it. But
it's like glue and poison.
It's glue and sawdust. Yeah, it shouldn't. That's actually a good point. I hadn't thought of that. But I'm going to ProPack next week to go see what options there are because it's a packaging expo. Last time I was there, I saw some really cool stuff, and this time I'm actually in a position to buy some really cool stuff. Whereas when I went there last, I think 4 years ago, I wasn't really in a position to buy anything. Like I actually watched on my YouTube channel. There's a shop tour video from December 2018, and I watched this video. I'm like, this Lati doesn't know what's going on. Like I look at how it was set up. I'm like, he's so optimistic. Like, but at that point, I didn't have to be profitable, so I could afford to just stuff around. I had to pay my bean counter and I had to pay for electricity, and that was it. Like I wasn't paying rent. It was just, it was fun at the time.
Speaking of shipping, Curt, are you going to get hosed by tariffs?
I won't. Customers will, but I don't think people quite realize that. Like it's the importer. It's always the importer that pays the tariff. Yeah. So unfortunately, I mean, there's a feedback, right? Because it makes your product more expensive to the person buying it. So they're not going to be like, it plays down the line. But yeah, it's usually the importer that pays. So rest of the world, not going to get hosed. But yeah, all my American folks, who knows? I mean, it changes every month. So just kind of stop paying attention to it, honestly.
That was a discussion we had today, was adding terms and conditions to our shipping policy, that if it stops at customs and you get $100 bill, that's not my problem. We're declaring it at full value because I can't afford for a pallet system to go missing, and then I don't have insurance on it because I declared it as a low value. So if it gets stopped at customs and you get a $100 bill, that's not my problem. Like, don't try to send it back because you got a $100 bill. It's against, we're going to put in the terms of service because we're looking at potentially shipping directly from South Africa. I have a way to do that costs an arm and a leg, but we absorb a portion of that and it'll be okay. Because it's $170 to ship a parcel. It's a bit brutal. But we have a plan.
I don't have enough spare time to understand the lottery system, but I need to figure it out because I've been trying not to become an EDC guy, but I was talking to Zach Smith and he was trying to convince me that I needed to wear a watch, which he failed miserably at, that I needed to wear a watch. I don't need to wear a watch. But he convinced me that I should see what this whole knife thing is all about. So I bought a couple of knives. And so now I have a knife and a flashlight. And so I feel like I need a pen to complete the EDC stuff.
That's your trifecta.
Yeah, so I'm in the market for a pen now. Although what I want is a pen and flashlight combined. Nobody sells one that I've been really happy with yet, but
fair. Yeah, no fair.
So I guess I'm in the market for a pen.
Wow.
How did your sale go, Curt?
Oh, fantastic as always. Yeah, I can never say thank you enough to the folks. I mean, it's heinous that I got to sell via lottery. I love it, but I get it. It's annoying for customers. 7:00 today, whatever remains is just going to go up for first come, first serve. No one's going to hear this. So it was 7:00 yesterday. So sorry you missed out. But that's how she works.
It might be useful to me.
Well, yeah, it's going to be useful to you.
Yeah, they go fast. It's usually like within 20 seconds, they're all gone, which is once again lovely.
Really?
But yeah, no, shoot me a message. We can figure something out. I always have friends and family ones floating around. So, although I shouldn't have said that on the podcast because people will be like, "Wait,
they're not friends and family."
Yeah,
We'll
exactly.
edit
You're not
that
friends or family.
Yeah.
We actually
I
have
have,
one Canadian employee on Toolpath, so they're in
Oh,
Mississauga, um, and I've been
oh,
looking for an excuse to get up there, visit them in person, maybe see Grimsmo shop, and maybe I'll come see your stuff too.
yeah. I'm a hike from there, but yeah, anytime, man.
that
I'll
is
do whatever I got to do.
that is one shop I would like to tour. Is Grimsmo shop. I wanted to meet him at IMTS. I literally had one of my knives that I two-tone anodized because of his video, and he wasn't there. I was a bit upset.
Yeah,
We'll get him
that's
there in
cool.
the next one.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be there at the next one. Like, I can't believe how many people got together at IMTS. It was insane. Like, that place
So
pumped.
we're nearing the end, Justin. What's your what's exciting you this week? What are you excited to work on, or what are you delving into?
For me, it's almost all chatter right now. So learning to
Okay.
understand chatter and to understand the like production machining mindset a little bit better. It's not something I've ever played with before. So like
Hmm.
understanding what people think about in terms of tool life and how they track that, and like playing with part counters in my machine and stuff like that. I've never touched any of that stuff before.
Hmm.
So a little bit of that. And then also long-term planning for toolpath. So I was trying to figure out, exactly what we're going to be doing for the rest of the year. It might sound a little crazy that I don't actually know what that is, but when you're moving this fast, everything changes all the time. So thinking about what it's going to look like for us to start making our own parts and to really refine that quoting product out there, and how to integrate chatter into it, is most of the stuff I'm thinking about. The other thing though is that we're having a toolpath on site at the end of the month. So it's actually the first time the entire company will be together. We're global. I think we literally have somebody. It is definitely true that the sun never sets on toolpath employees. I don't
That's
think we have
cool.
somebody in every time zone, but when we added Scott Moyce in New Zealand, we made it so the sun never sets on toolpath. Um, so starting to plan out for that a little bit, and it'll be one of those moments where I have a bunch of people who have never touched a machine, and I'm going to have them make some parts. Um, and I want to be a little bit more well prepared and well organized this time. So thinking through like what are the parts, but I want to have them like fully like run it through Toolpath, get the programs from Toolpath and make the tweaks you need. I'm trying to decide whether or not I'm going to have them make their own soft jaws and stuff, or whether I'll just give that to them. Um, I want them to set up the tooling and everything. So thinking through what that's going to look like, I guess, machining 101 for Toolpath employees
Hmm.
is what I'm thinking about this week.
Nice.
Okay. Yeah, that is really valuable to have them actually understand the process.
Yeah, I want them to feel that fear of pressing that green button. I want them to know what they're expecting our customers to feel like.
Yeah.
Well, that's like a great feedback into software too. Is like when you get to like experience like all aspects of the thing you're creating, as opposed to being like this will work and just pushing out into the world, and everyone being like this is terrible, and it's just like, well, it worked in theory for us, so I don't see what your problem is. It's like it's cool to
Right.
get real world feedback, and I think that's probably why you guys have a useful product is you get to iterate on it yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Getting more useful by the day. Working hard on the coding part of it for sure. But yeah.
That's awesome.
I have a question about chatter. You mentioned part
Mhm.
counting and chatter and tool life
Mhm.
management. Is there, I heard it somewhere, I can't remember where, um, with regards to using chatter to do your tool life management of specific tools across multiple jobs kind of story. So it's not in the controller, it's actually in chatter. Is that something
Yeah,
that's in the
except
works or?
except I don't think it does. It's on the roadmap. It doesn't work that way right now.
Okay.
Um, the way, and I have to be a little bit careful here because I'm just diving into this. So Pete will listen to this and tell me I got it all wrong. But I
Yeah,
was
I think I was
literally just
listening
playing
to
with this
him. I was listening to him on
on
with
Dylan's.
intolerance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the way it works right now is you set up for tool life management. You set up a specific job. You tell it what tools are in that job, and then it's watching the machine to see how many cycles that tool has gone
Okay.
through. Um, and then there's some extra features in there where you can like take some notes and tell it to like reset the count and everything. And then it knows like it looks at the runtime from that job to figure out like how many minutes in the cut you get.
Okay.
And so it'll basically tell you like, oh, well, I can see that you have 7 cycles out of 100 on this tool. So you're going to need to replace this tool in 2 hours or 2 days or whatever.
Okay. So it does a bit of forward
It,
planning, assuming you're running production consistently. Okay.
right.
No, that's very, very
But
interesting. And
it
yeah,
doesn't map from job to job though. So it
yeah,
doesn't
okay.
like tell you, oh, you have 20 minutes on this job and 30 minutes on that job.
No, but that's fine. I was curious about that. And what kind of information? So yeah, we're going to dive into my bad understanding of chatter. You're talking over Ethernet. So you're basically the machine spitting out a whole lot of stuff over Ethernet. As long as you're listening correctly, you can hear it. What kind of information is
Correct.
the machine actually spitting out?
A surprising amount.
Okay.
Put very simply, there's 3 kinds of information that come out. There's message and alert signals. That's
Yeah.
one kind. And then the machine can respond to queries about the values of any macro variables, any variables.
Ooh. Okay.
And then it'll also tell you its current state, like is it in
Running or
memory or handle
okay.
mode or whatever.
Okay. Does it spit
And
out the tool
so,
number that's currently in the spindle and spindle
sure,
RPM and all those kind of things? Okay.
yeah,
Very,
yeah,
very interesting. Yeah.
yeah. So it'll track all of that, and in production mode, it like tries to be a little bit smart, and it'll tell you like it's looking for even periods of spindle downtime, and then it'll say those are setup times, and then when it sees the part count increment, which it's just tracking the part count
Sure.
variables in the machine. When it sees the part count go back to 0, and then there's a long pause after that, it'll mark that as setup
As a
time.
setup. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's very
So,
interesting. Okay, no, it's interesting to hear how these things work. I haven't looked very deeply into it because for what I need, I've got one of these, but I would be very interested
yeah.
to dive a bit deeper into
You're
it. Like I'm monitoring it for shits and giggles, to be honest. Like I just want to see what my uptime is.
So I think the biggest thing that, let me caveat, I'm absolutely not trying to sell chatter to anybody here. And in fact, we are not even allowing new chatter customers onto the platform right now. Jamie, you are on my short list of beta testers for the Siemens control. And Curt, if you're interested, you can be on that list too, since you have a Siemens control, but when we're ready to deploy that. But there are different classes of users for chatter, and some people really like all they care about is getting a text message when the machine stops running.
Yeah.
So like CJ really cares about that because he's got pretty tight production schedules. And so like if it's 9 o'clock at night and there's an error, he's going to go back to the shop and fix it. He
Yeah.
wants to know that. And that's like his critical thing. Some other folks really want like part count and tool life management. And then larger shops with like lots and lots of machines just really want to take a look at like spindle uptime and kind of the evil boss thing a little bit, but they want to know like, hey, why is this machine down for an hour, right? Like what's going on here?
Yeah.
The challenge for us moving forward, and it's going to take us probably a year before we're really ready to do this, is to integrate chatter and toolpath so that like, oh, I quoted this job and these are the tools I'm using and I programmed it. And so now I'm tracking, like closing that loop. And then also being like, oh, and by the way, you quoted that job as taking 20 minutes apart. But when you ran it, it was actually 27 minutes apart. Right. And like closing that loop so that over time we can come up with like the correct fudge factor for the job. Right.
That's cool.
Because there's
Yeah.
always something, right? There's always, like, oh, it took a little longer to load the part than you thought, or you tweaked a feed and speed or whatever, right? Like vice tightening time. And so not that I actually think that if you're in a high mix environment that you should be quoting down to the minute, right? Like there needs to be a good amount of buffer.
Yeah.
But if you're consistently 30% low on your runtime estimates, then chatter can hopefully soon help you understand that and add that in as you start quoting. And where I think that really starts to help, and this bit me, the biggest job I ever did was like 150 parts or something.
That's
And
cute.
I don't have like super optimized feeds and speeds or anything. So that was like that 150 parts was like 3 days of running, right? For me. No automation or anything, like me hand loading the parts. But like when I quoted the part, I thought it'd be a day and a half of running. And I was just off, right? And so that was a weekend in the shop getting that job ready. And I think like closing the loop with chatter will really, really help avoid those kinds of situations. I like to say that it's not the quotes you get right that kill you, it's the quotes you get wrong, right? And so like having some hard data to be like, listen, no, moron, I know that you think you can make that part in 5 minutes, but every time you've made that part, it's taken you 7.5. So like, how about we quote this right from now on, you know?
Yeah, that's also what's measured is managed. Like,
Right.
if you actually monitor things, you find stuff out. Like I was having a conversation with my brother this afternoon, and I was saying to him, we're running a job. We started off, it was taking us like 7 or 8 minutes per assembly. It's now down to like 3.5 minutes. Guess what? Customer has an increase in price in 2 years because I don't need to put the price up. I kind of feel bad. I'm charging them so much, but they can't get it cheaper anywhere else. So it is what it is. Like, yeah, finding those improvements, and I think Chatter will help a lot with that. And like you say, closing that loop is a big thing. Because quoting,
and then the other one, yeah. The other one that I think it's not in the main product yet, but I'm really excited about, bringing it back to what we were talking about before, is keeping a log of your in-process probing data. I think there actually is some alpha features in there that some customers have access to, but believe it or not, I don't have access to it yet. But once you have a probe and you can do in-process probing, like tracking that data and like watching the parts change over time and things like that, I think it'll be hugely valuable.
You could.
Those are the things that I think are really exciting about Chatter. But
yeah, because that would make tracking thermal growth really easy. Like if you can actually archive all that information.
Yeah. So
not that I worry about
there's a lot of
growth
potential there.
All the stuff I do, I don't need to measure, and that is by design and by choice. If it doesn't need to be measured, don't measure it.
Okay. I get the impression you hold some pretty tight tolerances, though, Curt, and you probably do care about thermal growth.
Yeah. I definitely do. Yeah, I definitely do. Yeah, Jamie's a woodworker over there. I just
My parts are tiny, pallet system. It's different. Yeah. Let me actually put this into the imperializer. Point 2. Yeah, that's 79 thou. No, 7.9 thou is the tolerance on on everything on the pallet system except for like 3 critical features.
Wow,
it's designed to rattle fit, because if it doesn't need to be tight, don't make it tight. Like, there's a couple tight features, everything else rattle fit. That's what O-rings are for. Like, it is. Like, it needs to seal for air, and that's what the O-ring's for. Otherwise, it can be loose. Rather let it be loose and find its center than have it over-constrained.
Except for the locating pins, right?
Yeah, those are the bores for those, their positional and their diameter. The center bore for where the pad locates and the inner bore of the pad are the only critical dimensions. Everything else is non-critical. And that's by design. It's been designed to be easy to manufacture. Like, I'm not going to try and hold silly tight tolerance if I can avoid it. Like, silly tight tolerances just add stress for no reason. Like, a lot of the stuff we do, a lot of it's got a 2 thou tolerance on it, plus minus 2 thou. I try and hold it well within that. It's running brass on the MCO. It does it all day. I love that machine. I set it up in the morning and in the afternoon. I mean, I ran 600 pieces of 303 stainless, making little rivets. I would set up, I think I did a batch of 200, then I did another 300, then I did 100 the next day. And in the morning you set size, and in the afternoon, oh look, it's still the same size. Like, our machine is astonishingly accurate, especially for being 30 years old. Or 35 years old.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the MCOs are really, really, especially the old ones, are really, really well built. But yeah, cool. So we've stolen some questions from other podcasts. What have you been Googling? Because it's the best question.
I've actually been Googling, it's going to be super nerdy, but like real-time data architectures for Chatter. There's like a large volume of data when you have thousands and thousands of machines piping into a database. So looking up like what best practices are for that. And then this morning I was looking up part counter codes for Brothers and how to call subprograms. Because I needed to like write a simulated production job for the Brother. So I have it like just looping over the same program and everything.
Okay, nice.
So, yeah.
I imagine that's a fun thing in your world, is just like none of the machines you're interfacing with, I'm assuming, have like the same kind of like standard for even like data output on Ethernet. Like, are they all different? Are you like constantly iterating? Yeah, that's
yeah. So I don't want to take credit for that. Pete did a lot of that work. Believe it or not, the most consistent machines are the FANUC machines. Sort of. The connection interface is the most consistent. The world of like other machines that use MT Connect is just a nightmare. Like it's supposed to be a self-describing standard and it's not. So there's some work we have to do there. Haas's and Brothers are pretty consistent for kind of the obvious reason that they just control the whole thing. And then like the Siemens controls with the OPC UA, we're just starting to figure that out. So already we're talking about like 4 or 5 different protocols, and some of those protocols are like only sort of protocols. So yeah, it's a challenge for sure.
Yeah, that's
for sure.
Seems
Pete
unpleasant.
does a great job like coming up with a way to wrangle all of that complexity. That's the Chatterbox actually handles most of that. So it's pretty cool. You could literally like I have one Chatterbox and I could run. We don't actually know what the limit of the number of the machines is, but you could run like let's just say 5 machines. You could run a Brother, a Haas, a FANUC, a Siemens, and a Heidenhain machine all into one Chatterbox, and it talks to all of them, which is pretty cool.
Wow. Oh, I didn't know that was the case now. Oh, that's sick. That's cool.
Yeah, that's really sweet.
Not all of those are officially supported yet. Some of those are beta supported, but just theoretically, that one box can talk to all the machines.
Oh, that's cool.
It does it all over Ethernet, which is cool. So like the Chatterbox just goes in your networking closet, and then as long as the machines are networked, I hear your machines are not networked, Curt. We'll have to work on that. But.
I just have to run a cable. That's all I have to do. That's all I have to do.
Stop being a poor person and run a cable.
USB drives a big cable though. I don't like cables on roofs. I have to like run it around things.
It's just glued to the roof. Like literally in the middle of the workshop, glued to the roof, and the cables are drilled into the roof. Cable sticks out and plugs in. It's great.
No, that'll make me throw up. I can't do that.
But some trunking, it'll be fun.
No. Anyways,
I'll send you a picture of the Ethernet cables in my garage at home when I get home, Curt.
Are they pretty?
I moved the Ethernet jack from the side of my machine to the top because the side it was going to get broken off. I guess in a reasonable person's workshop, it's not a problem. When you've got to walk like a crab past your machine, it's a bit of a challenge.
Let's see. Oh yeah, no.
You know, there's a plug on the back, right? There's a plug on the back of most controllers.
It's inside the box, and I just like have never had the 20 minutes to like go. I even bought like an extra cable or whatever to like reroute it, and I just haven't had the.
That's the first thing I did. I was like, I can't have it sticking out the front, and I can't have it sticking out the side. I make it look pretty.
Yeah,
but actually, these LNC controls can take a wireless adapter.
Ooh, that USB seems unreliable.
Yeah,
I hate wireless. My new 3D printer is wireless, and I hate it. I bought another resin printer because I have a problem. And it wants me to connect to Wi-Fi and updates. I'm like, you're a printer. What do you need an update for? Print the thing. This isn't hard.
We're gonna have to talk to the bar feeder about taking away your credit card.
No, we need it for a job. I could justify this one. No, I've got to print 100 things in the next 3 weeks, 100 enclosures, injection molding samples. So I needed another printer or it wasn't going to happen. So yeah, I've been Googling screens. I now leave all my tabs open on my phone, all 12 of them. Been Googling monitors because I want a bigger monitor because, I don't know, I feel like my 24-inch one isn't big enough. And then 3D printing store because I was looking at buying another printer. And then I went and did it today. Yeah, I ended up buying a Creality Harlot Pro 1 Pro. So we'll see. The print should be done after the podcast, and I'll go have a look at it. I've also now got a curing station and all the freaking paraphernalia.
The name of the printer is the Harlot?
Yeah, the Creality Harlot 1 Pro.
Is this something where it means something different in South African than
it
does?
It means the same thing. It means something different in China, but we bring them straight in from China. Like,
okay.
Their software is called Harlot Box, which is freaking hilarious.
Nice.
Yeah. It seems to be doing a good job. We'll see later. And yeah, Curt, what have you been searching? Probably Home Assistant things?
No, I'll stay off that. I mean, I always am, yeah, but I'll leave that off the podcast. talk about that weekly. Googling. I mean, last week I swapped out my hard drive to a solid state, and I just
Oh
maxed this thing
yes.
out in RAM. Dude, if you have a laptop or a PC at home now, like just max out the RAM and put in good solid state hard drives. They're so cheap nowadays, and it was like a 500% performance increase. It boots up in like 20 seconds now. Yeah.
I
Highly.
literally
So,
did
anyways,
that today for a customer. Their machine was running a hard drive. I didn't realize I sold it to them with a hard drive. The drive started
yeah,
failing. So I'm like, just send me the computer. I'll put an SSD in it for you. Thought I had one laying around. Didn't. Ended up buying a 500 gig one for, I think, $40. Not even. It was like,
yeah,
$40. Super cheap.
yeah, exactly. I spent $200 and I bought like 32 gigs of RAM and 100 gig or a terabyte hard drive, all brand
Yeah,
name stuff too. Like it's insane how cheap that stuff
it's
is nowadays.
gotten cheap. Yeah.
Anyway,
Except for
so
graphics cards. Those are stupid expensive.
yeah, well, it's because we're all Bitcoin mining with them, or we're Bitcoin mining with them. So
Yeah.
anyway,
It's gotten very, very silly. But yeah.
yeah, so that's basically my
Sweet.
world. And then I lost my entire Fusion local library because it's on this hard drive, which is no longer connect in the computer because I did it
Yes.
fresh. So I got to bring that across. But I think I'm going to run all that through Toolpath because
Oh, well,
you've
there's
been
your excuse.
working on
Yeah.
me to run my own, to run a Chatter
Yeah.
Toolpath, or not
Pre-tool.
Chatter, a Toolpath, pre-tool. That's
Oh,
what.
Pre-tool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Pre-tool's the
just
best.
just
I
to see
love
what it spits
pre-tool.
out.
oh, I'm
So
glad you guys like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
yeah.
I redid
I
all
actually
my
meant to play with it.
libraries.
Yeah, I was going to play with it this weekend, so I'd have something to talk to you about, but then children and all that stuff. So I'm going to do that today
Oh
because
man.
I have to.
Well, message me when you're doing it, and we can do it on a call together. I'll give you a hand.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll see. I'll stumble my way through, and then when I get myself good and headached, then I'll bug you, so I don't have to suck up more of your time. 'Cause, yeah, definitely appreciate you coming on here. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it's been lovely having you. So let's do call to actions quickly. Justin, would you like to send people anywhere?
Oh, well, visit toolpath.com and chatter.com. Check us out. Like I said, we're not taking any new Chatter customers right now, but there is a form you can like sign up to get notified when we are taking new ones. And please sign up for a Toolpath trial and give it a try. You get a 14-day free trial, and if you ask nicely, we'll often extend it longer than that.
Oh, very nice. So yeah, if you want to find any of my stuff, you can hit up jspeceng.com. We've got our frame lock utility knife. We've got a bunch of t-shirts available with all funny things on them. And there's also a sign up for the Anchor Point, which we will be going to market with shortly. Just got to get it off to the testers, two of which happen to be on the call.
Yay! I'm super excited for that.
Yeah,
Me too.
Keen to box them up now. But yeah, Curt, where can people find you?
You can find my wares at confoundermachine.com. Like I said, I have a first come first serve sale coming out before you even can listen to this. But if you don't want to miss out in the future, there's a contact box. I'll send you an email. You don't have to try to remember things. That'd be mine. And thelonamachinist.com. There's all kinds of links to weirdness there, and Jamie's weird words and Patreon, all that jazz.
The companion guard. Companion guard is quite entertaining. Cool. So, Justin, what are you up to today? Because it's middle of the day there for you guys now.
What am I up to next? We are ending a sprint cycle, so I need to jump into sprint planning and make sure my team of developers has their priorities for the next 2 weeks set up.
Okay.
Is that what your cycle is now? 2 weeks?
Yeah. Going into IMTS, it was 1 week, and that was insane.
That, yeah.
I was
that's
absolutely
stupid.
Insane. There was a method to that madness, and now it's 2 weeks. And sometimes I feel like even that's too short, but 2 weeks is okay for right now.
Yeah, I think in the software world, 2 weeks is still nuts. But yeah, that's when I heard about 1 week, I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah, the reason we were doing that is like estimating when you give a software developer a task and like how long is this going to take? It's like basically like they want to overestimate it because they want more time and they don't want to cut it short, and I want to underestimate it because I want to get more done. And so it's this like stupid friction point. And if you just make everything a week, then it's pretty obvious whether something can be done in a week or not, right? And if it turns out to go longer than that, then at least you only lost a week. So when you need like absolute highest velocity and you're trying to get rid of slower parts of the process that are, I don't want to call them inefficient, but slower, then the week makes sense. But when you're not in a mad dash for INTS and everybody deserves a little bit more time to breathe, then longer cycles make more sense.
Nice.
No.
Nice.
Okay, sweet. Curt, what are you up to today?
Like I said, I'm going to fix the tool path. I got pre-tool open right now, so I'm going to fumble through that a little bit. I have to clean a tumbler. That's the only tumbling talk I'll talk about on this podcast because I haven't cleaned it in like a few days. And I got to box up a whole bushel of pens to ship out today. So yeah, that's basically my day. How about your evening or your tomorrow or your today? Whatever you want to talk about, Jamie.
Tomorrow.
You're in the future.
Let's focus on my tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm going to finally finish up the camera housing stuff. I've got, I think, 4 more parts that have to be machined. Some of it, there's like 30 parts that have to be machined, so that's easy. Make soft jaws and then just push go. And some Tufnell parts, and then that job is finished, and I can start setting up some other jobs on the other lathes. Also got a bunch of material arriving tomorrow, so tomorrow afternoon my plan is to machine 150 parts. So on Wednesday when I go to pick up another job, I can drop them off at powder coating. But yeah, those are nice and quick. They're sub 1 minute parts. So I'm going to load. It turns out I can load 8 in the machine with the mighty bites I have without having to buy more. Load 8 pieces at a time and just see how the fixture holds up. And then I know for future that I need to buy a whole bunch more of mighty bites. And then that's the job I want to automate loading. But for now, I'm just going to build 2 fixtures in the machine and run it that way because I can run out 500 parts in an afternoon. So it's kind of pointless automating it if I can do it in an afternoon. But yeah, in the long run, it might be worth automating. But yeah, that's the plan.
Sick. That sounds like fun.
Yeah. Oh, sweet. So thank you everybody for listening. We had a great time chatting to Justin. Please give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. Give us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts because we're on there now because Justin asked nicely. So yeah, thank you again very much for listening. There's a Patreon available on our website, thelonemachinistscom, and that goes towards covering the podcast costs and getting Curt and I to not stay in the south of Chicago in 2026. So thank you very much for listening, guys, and we will see you next week. Say the thing, Curt.
Oh, take care, all.